What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. It's a super exciting day for us here at the Turkey Range. It's a great 10mm day. Ruger has introduced their LC Carbine in 10mm. They just recently did it in 45, but now it's in 10, the best millimeter. So we have the Lord's caliber and we have the best millimeter. Pretty awesome. I had to pick up the 10mm. I was kind of looking at the 45 ACP. I was thinking they might have done this, and bam, they did it. So I totally had to run out to my local shop today. I found out they had one on the shelf. I said, pull that thing for me. I'll be there as fast as I can. I broke the piggy bank. I literally broke the piggy bank. I have one of those machines at my bank that you can count the change. And I took every last little dollar and I went and I got this thing. Now we have it here for you. So this is literally an unboxing first shots video. Let's take a look at what's in the box now. So the typical Ruger white box. Everybody knows these. This one has the sticker because it is their 75th anniversary this year. And when we open it up, it is a pretty well-packaged firearm, I can tell you just from the double flap. And then we have our styrofoam and whatnot. We have our instruction manual, some stickers, whatever comes in there, of course. We have a couple wrenches. We have a safety lock. Here we have an extra QD attachment, which we'll get to that in a second, but that's cool that that's in there. We have the rifle and the magazine. And of course, a chamber flag. So there you go. Out of the box, I think it's a pretty good looking rifle. Ruger makes good looking stuff usually. The only funny thing is this is going to be one of those where you insert the magazine into the pistol grip. So some people don't like that style. They would rather see the AR style where you'd have a magazine somewhere up here, but that's personal preference. There's different ways to load that people like one or the other. But overall, it's a pretty short, compact package. With a fully extended buttstock, I'm measuring 30.5 inches. We have a 16-inch threaded barrel. I'll go ahead and put the thread right up there because I'm not good at even saying that kind of stuff. I'm not a suppressor person, but if you are, you can attach whatever you want. The barrel is made out of a steel alloy. The receiver is made out of an aluminum alloy, and that is hard coat anodized. Type 3 hard coat anodizing for those that care. The buttstock is foldable and it is adjustable as far as length of pull. It does not have an adjustable cheek riser, but it has a cheek piece. The buttstock is compatible with other M4 style buttstocks. Not all. They say it is compatible with most. And then the other cool thing about this buttstock is this is actually side folding. So if you press this button right here, we can side fold. It will lock, and then when it locks, it's pretty much locked. You have to lift it up and then get it to go ahead and close or open again. Don't panic like I did when I first closed it and I couldn't figure out how to get it to open up. Then I read the instructions and they say you have to lift up on this hinge a little bit. Now they do say that after a while, that won't be so much of a lock. That'll be an actual detent where it will be able to roll over the detent. They say that this actually has a break-in period. You have to work that a little bit to get that to work. It does come with backup iron sights or primary iron sights, whatever you want to call them, and that's good because a lot of companies will not throw these in. These are Ruger's house-made. They call them rapid deploy. They're just like the Magpols, in my opinion, just as effective, just as rugged, and they do rapid deploy. Actually, kind of funny, I notice about these ones, they do sound cool when you close them. They make a little ratcheting noise. So those are good to have on there. You can, of course, put on whatever you want. Later in the video, I will set a Sig Romeo on there. That's easy enough. Full length and very solid feeling rail, so you can hang off your side mounts. You got plenty of Magpul attachments on both sides, all the way around and on the bottom. You can do your foregrips, you can do your side panels, whatever you want to do there. That's pretty awesome. We have a QD point here at the back of the receiver, and we also have one on each side of the buttstock. And Ruger was nice enough to include that extra M-Lock QD sling mount so that you can put another sling mount up here and you're ready to go right out of the box. So you got iron sights and you've got a sling mount right out of the box. That's pretty good. Another cool feature is there is a reversible side charging handle. So very easily, according to the manual, you can swap it out and go over there. Another swappable situation here is the magazine release. You can switch the magazine release over here. There is a caveat, and that caveat is that this firearm takes Glock pattern magazines, and you have to have one of the newer style magazines that have this notch cut out on both sides if you choose to do an ambi safety situation or a right-handed situation, because the older generation, I believe generation 3 and previous, do not have that second cutout. Also, as far as ambi, you do see a safety here on the right side also, and you do see a bolt release on the right side. Now, that's a very different bolt release than you're going to see here on the other side. On this side, you do have the same type of a safety. They call that a 1911 style safety, and I'll show you why here soon. But the bolt release is here on this side, so a little bit different. For some reason that I can't figure out yet, we have a pick rail right here on the bottom. I know a lot of people would say, okay, you can mount a pistol light right here, but then your hand would be in the way if you're using the grip up here at all. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of laser light or what you would put here. I don't think you would put a bipod here. If you were going to use this with a bipod, I think you would use that up here. But if somebody knows in the comment section what you would hang off right here, let me know. I mean, would you want your foregrip that close? I don't think so either. I think that would be extended pretty far out. So that's a curiosity to me. This rifle stripped down supposedly weighs 7.4 pounds. One more feature I forgot to mention is that along with the adjustability here of the buttstock and being able to take it out or take it off and swap it out with others, it also is mounted here with a pick rail. So you do have many options for the rear of the receiver. This firearm does appear to have a fully supported chamber. That's good for reloading. That's good for safety in general. Now, we all know we're talking about the 10mm version, but maybe some of you don't know what 10mm really looks like. Maybe you've never had one and you're thinking about it. Just to give you a quick comparison here, I've lined up some of the most common handgun calibers that you can find. Starting out here, we have 357 Magnum, 38 Special, 45 ACP. Then you have your 10mm right here, followed by your 40 caliber Smith & Wesson, 357 SIG, 9mm Luger or Parabellum, or probably 5 other names, followed by 380 ACP. As far as the magazine that came with the firearm and the one that we're going to be using today, it is from SGM Tactical. I've never heard of them. I don't think it's a Ruger brand. I kind of looked it up real quick and it just seems to be an aftermarket manufacturer. It is not an actual Glock mag. As far as everything else about that mag, all I will say is it is YouTube compliant. You can look up the specs for everything else. The ammunition we're going to be using today is a very light load for 10mm. Actually, we're going to go ahead and go easy on the firearm at first. We're just going to run some of this stuff through it, and we're going to run some of my hand loads through it. So to start with, this here is just a 180 grain full metal jacket from S&B. I have no idea what the velocity is supposed to be out of a pistol even. I can't remember, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot more out of a 16-inch barrel. It's just your typical flat nose 40 caliber or 10mm bullet. We're going to go ahead and load up the appropriate number of these and let her rip. All right, this is going to be the absolute first shots with this gun. I have my buttstock extended all the way. It does seem like a pretty short little platform for me. I do want to grab it right here a little bit, kind of like you would do a magwell on an AR. So that does feel weird to have the pick rail there, but maybe there's something aftermarket you do there. Otherwise, I'll just put some grippies on the rail for sure. We have our pretty darn heavy magazine that I almost installed like an AR magazine. But here we go into the hand grip, seated firmly. First one went into the chamber, and let's hope these iron sights are somewhat zeroed. Yep, they're absolutely zeroed, and that was very low recoil. And one low. Totally not used to shooting iron sights, but that's fun to do every now and then. They all ran, that magazine is empty, and it did lock back on the empty. Out of the box, we were zeroed with those first shots with these iron sights. This is just me drifting a little bit as I shoot. This firearm ejected most of its brass exactly 10 feet to the right. Total 3 o'clock position, exactly 10 feet. As far as the cases, in my opinion, they look good. There is no base bulge. That's not a super hot ammo. Good primer strike. Looks good to me. Looks totally reloadable. The handguard got mildly warm, but not bad, and the muzzle is still, it's not cool, it's not super hot, but it's touchable. Overall, it's very smooth to shoot. You can stay on target once you learn the trigger and you learn the little bit of recoil it has, even with iron sights, pretty darn good. A lot of people are going to use PCCs or pistol caliber carbines for home defense. That's a really good role for them. And in a home defense situation, right off the bat, I can tell you this would be very easy to use. I did notice something about the trigger before we shot, and I definitely noticed it while we were shooting. So let's show you that real quick. Okay, the trigger does have a little safety dingus in there. So as far as this trigger, let me double, yep, we're totally empty. Actually, I have to close the bolt. Yep, we're empty. So trigger dingus goes down, and then you do have a little bit of slack to take up, and then there is a pretty good amount of creep before you get it. It's a weird creep. I'll do it again. Now the gun is brand new, but about that much travel to get through. I'll show you the reset. So get through the trigger, reset it. The reset is fairly long. There's the reset. So yeah, fairly long reset, but It is a pistol caliber carbine. It's not your typical AR. I'm not sure if you can switch out triggers on this platform, but I've had much worse triggers on certain handguns. I can deal with it. It's just something you're going to have to get used to if you're used to shooting really nice AR style triggers. Something else I noticed is that this mag catch, me personally, I don't reach it with my thumb very well. We're really used to reaching up here for a mag release. Now, if you reach up here for a mag release, you're going to end up closing the bolt. So example, the bolt is held open, the magazine comes out, and that is one of your bolt releases. The other bolt release would be here. So mag comes out, put a new mag, drop your bolt there. So I would prefer it to be here for me for a rifle, but you can kind of break your grip just maybe partially and still get to it. I will mention this, it is very light. You barely have to touch it and that magazine goes dropping down. So with loaded magazines, that can be a little tough on them if you accidentally drop them fully loaded. You're not really supposed to do it if you can help it. And in general, if you are actually using this in any kind of a fight, don't accidentally bump it. If for some reason you put it on ambi or you switch it over here to the right because you want to use it with your right finger, be careful with that. If you're left-handed, that's totally fine because you would just be using it like this. But if you're right-handed and you switch it over here, I would be really careful about bumping it as you're shooting the trigger or pulling the trigger. You might accidentally drop that magazine. So just something to note. Another thing about these controls is I will say that in my opinion, they feel a little bit cluttered. You have not much room here between the bolt drop and the safety. They are correct when they say it's a 1911 style, but it's not a 1911 actual safety. I have a lot of 1911s. A 1911 safety does operate just like that. However, it's a little bit closer to the knuckle of your thumb, so you can actually ride it and actuate it with minimal effort. This one, at least for me, I'm actuating here with the partial pad of my finger. I'm not really getting it into the knuckle, and I wouldn't necessarily ride it when I'm shooting. I don't know if there's a chance to bump it up or not, but I can't ride it and get on the trigger at the same time. I need to get a little bit more of a forward grip to get on the trigger. All right, now we're going to shoot some steel again. This time I've got the Romeo 5 mounted, and it does co-witness with these sights. And speaking of that, you can adjust that front sight. Ruger did include a front sight adjustment tool. That is pretty cool to involve a tool. So I'll flip those down. Like I said, they was co-witness pretty well. And not actually in reality, but we'll roll with it for a second. We can move over and get some more targets of opportunity here. We have a V8, we have 2 Simply jugs full of water, and some bricks. Let's let them have it. Yep, that does the trick. 10mm is definitely powerful. I'm sure the 16-inch barrel is helping that out. Now, one thing I find a little irritating in the owner's manual, most companies will say do not use hand loads like we have right here, but they also say do not use aluminum. So this cheap aluminum 10mm stuff, they say not to use it. We might do that in a future video, and in this video, we have the hand loads we're not supposed to run. So I got a bunch of those loaded up here right now. Let's run some hand loads. These are Full Metal Jacket flat point 180 grain extreme bullets, and they do have some tight group behind them. And I know some people really don't like hand loads, but I take great care in my hand loads, and for 10mm, it's really the only cost-effective way to do it. There's that bolt release that feels weird on that side. I'll try not to miss, even though my scope's off a little bit right now, but let's see how it eats up the hand loads. Oh, I got something going on here already, and that's a safety. So safety off. And that felt really weird. That was like that was an odd little ka-chug that I had right there. I'm gonna actually check the gun because that really felt like a weird reciprocation here. All right, no barrel obstruction or anything like that I saw, but it did feel very weird. I can admit that. And there again, just kind of a weird feeling. My hand loads are spot on, I can tell you that. Maybe it's because I'm shooting slow, I kind of feel it a little bit more. But every now and then it just does feel just a little bit odd. Like that one. That one, it did not cycle, so maybe it's something to do with that. But by using Kentucky windage, I was able to put them all there on the red. Cheap red dots with no power serve this gun just fine. As far as it choking with my hand load, I don't know, maybe it doesn't like the velocity. Those are a little bit on the lower velocity side. Those are more for having fun at the range. And in general, they've been made and optimized for my handguns. They're still, according to the book, totally fine as far as all measurements and checks. They've all been chamber checked, but for some reason, this one didn't quite like it. We have plenty of hand loads to go through. Trust me, we'll be testing all kinds on it, so we'll figure it out. But hand loading is definitely important in the 10mm world. That's why I'm going to go ahead and bring it up, and that's why we're going to try it, despite what the manual says. I'm sure my warranty just got voided. That's fine. But you can't always afford this super expensive 10mm. And this stuff that's even not that expensive, now we can't even use it, according to them. Like I said, we might be trying that. All right, we're a little closer to that steel. I'm just going to go ahead and run this thing at speed and see what happens. Kind of know what it does if I just go ahead and try to run that trigger real fast. We're back to my reloads again. Maybe a good idea, maybe not. And yeah, it definitely has a different reciprocation with some of those rounds, so it could have something to do with the velocity. Let's try it again with some actual factory ammo. All right, back to the S and Bs. So factory ammo, no excuse for the reloads. And it absolutely kept running. All right, so for now, we can't blame the rifle for anything. We just blame my hand loads until I get that figured out. With regular factory ammunition, she ran great. And we just got done with that shooting, and she's not that hot. Now, touching the barrel, yeah, the barrel's a little steamy, but this handguard's letting enough heat escape. It actually looks really weird. Between where you see the port here, the ejection port, and the barrel, there's this huge area in between. I don't know what's going on in there, actually. I got to take a look. But it almost looks like the barrel starts right here, and it's about an 8-inch barrel. It's not, of course. It's 16 inches from, including the chamber, but looks a little funny up here. That might have something to do with the way the heat dissipates. Let's real quick go over the pros and cons, in my opinion. This rifle is lightweight. That is awesome. You don't like to pack around a heavy rifle. If you're already going for a PCC, pistol caliber carbine, you're probably trying to reduce a little bit of weight in general. You're not trying to carry around a battle rifle, at least. Let's put it that way. This rifle is upgradable, so you can customize it. And trust me, the next time you see this, you're going to see things a little bit different on this rifle. But not just customizable with Bubba's spray paint, but you can hang things off of it. You can change different buttstocks, like we said, put whatever optics you want on there. Like we said, some of these things are reversible, so that's cool. The pick rail in back and the folding stock in general is a good idea, especially the reversible folding stock. That's awesome. Good amount of options there for you. The fully supported chamber and being easy on brass for reloading, even though it doesn't like my reloads, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. We don't like wrecking brass, and we like to be safe, because when we do start putting the hot stuff through here, we don't want to have blowouts. One of the best things about this rifle is it's 10mm in general. We have a lot of options for 10mm. Some of them are soft and easy to control, like 40 caliber, and some of them are extremely potent. With the 10mm cartridge, this thing can be used for fun, for hunting, for defense, for heck, bear defense if you want to. Not that I always advise 10mm for bear defense, but it's probably not a bad option with that type of capacity and that barrel length. With the right type of projectile, of course. Another good thing about this rifle, I'm just going to go ahead and proactively say this. I don't know this for sure, and I hope I don't have to use it, but Ruger customer service is pretty well known. Even if they can't fix it on the first go-around, they will keep trying, but they're just definitely known for taking care of their guns. They will bring this thing back to the factory 100 times if they need to, or give you a new gun, from what I've always understood. That's worth its weight in gold right there, as a company that will actually respond to you. Some of these companies sell you things, and then you're just totally left hanging when they're not working properly. Now let's get on to some of the negatives. You can see right here in this chamber, that thing is going to be pretty open in general. And even when it's closed, I'll go ahead and get that magazine out. We'll drop that chamber. You can see what is a pretty open area here. If any dirt or debris gets into there, I can imagine it can start gunking up the works. This is not a gas blowback gun that's going to blow out a bunch of stuff. It doesn't kind of self-clean itself like your typical AR might. So I'm not going to do torture testing. I will let somebody else on YouTube do that. You guys got plenty of torture testers out there. I don't do that to firearms, but I'd like to see what happens when somebody finally does, because I can just see a lot of stuff getting into that. I'm going to go ahead and have to knock on the cost of this. This is not a cheap firearm. I'm not going to talk about exact numbers, and they change all the time anyway, but it's not exactly a cheap option. But if it turns out to be a good platform, sometimes you get what you pay for, and that might be a little bit more paying for a little bit more quality. The trigger and the trigger reset are not my favorite, but I think I can manage with them. Right out of the box, the stock is just a little sticky in general, but that might not be a bad thing. It doesn't wobble around on you. And you do have that break-in period to deal with, but that shouldn't be too difficult. Not too difficult. Anyway. Another little nitpicky thing is that this doesn't exactly feel comfortable, this pick rail here. I'll definitely end up putting some sort of a rail cover on that. I do have to pick on that mag release being a little bit light. I don't want to be dropping magazines, and that thing is very light in my opinion. And in that same area, like I said, these controls are a little cluttered. So if you're used to using ARs, this is definitely going to be a little bit of a challenge for you to get the manual of arms down correctly. And I do have to complain in general just a little bit about the safety. I wish it was just more of your typical AR style safety. When you have a rifle shouldered, it's just intuitive usually for you to want to use the AR style kind of flipping, paddling motion. This one is the up and down 1911 motion. So it's just not intuitive when you have a rifle in your hand, in my opinion. And one thing about this buttstock, even though it's nice how it's adjustable and changeable and swappable and all that, I wish that this was an adjustable cheek riser. I wish we can get a little bit more height on here. And one thing that's a little bit concerning to me is that if anything goes wrong with this, I do feel that the ejection port is a little closer to your face than your typical AR platform. I know it's a PCC, and maybe that's just the nature of these things. I'm not very used to them, but it is significantly closer to your face than, let's say, my CMMG Mutant. I definitely have this port a little bit farther forward. I picked the Mutant, the Mark 47, because it's a very in-between platform. A 308 would be farther out, as long as it's not something like an S-FAR, but your typical 308, the ejection port would even be farther out. And if it's an AR-15, it'd be a little closer in. So this is kind of an average, but all three of them, I did put them up to my face. All three of them are farther away. So I'm comfortable having brass coming out here. And if there's a pop, let it happen up here, not back here. It's kind of why I don't like the idea of bullpups, but just thought I'd point that one out too. So far, I like it. There's a few things I'm just completely foreign to at the moment that I'm going to have to get used to. But I was really excited when I heard that they put this thing out in the best millimeter. And like I said, I ran to grab it real quick, and now you guys get to see it. Stay tuned because we have plenty of ammo testing. We have a whole bunch of 10mm, including the forbidden stuff that we're not supposed to shoot. They also say don't shoot 40 caliber, like 40 Smith & Wesson through this firearm, but we may push the limits there too. We can do what we want because we're not sponsored here on the Turkey's Opinion. Nobody sent this thing to us for free, so it's our gun to do with what we please. We will also be using a whole bunch of different defensive ammunitions that we have saved up from our other tests to see how they do out of a 16-inch barrel, and we'll send all those through gel. We'll be using the awesome new Garmin chronograph we got to test barrel velocities between handgun sizes and this 16-inch rifle barrel. We'll definitely dress it up. We'll get it exactly how we want for next time. And I definitely want to do actual accuracy testing. I want to do accuracy testing with the iron sights. I'm going to get this thing zeroed. We'll probably put an LPVO on it and maybe even a hunting scope. We'll see how all these things do at 25, 50, 100 yards, things like that. So if you're not already subscribed to the Turkey's Opinion, now's a good time, especially if you're a fan of 10mm or 10mm PCCs. Hope you enjoy these type of videos. Hope you enjoyed this awesome unboxing. Glad you were here with us. And until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting.